All the pieces are in place. Fully 50% of the United States Air Force in the whole world is now jammed in to the Persian Gulf and its Mediterranean approaches. The scene is set for the cataclysm. The scene is set for Doomsday. There's no easy way to put that. If Donald Trump throws the first stone tomorrow, the last stone is not easy to predict. Some things, of course, are easy to predict. The course of the war, at least not the outcome. The course of the war is basically simple. The United States will launch what are reported to be weeks of airstrikes because they have no army on board, the airplanes or the ships in the Gulf. The Air Force will pulverize Iraq in a shock and awe operation, just like the one that I Freudian slipped there by mentioning the word Iraq. It's only one letter of a difference, but the approach is perfectly similar. Weeks of airstrikes against Iran may decapitate the Iranian leadership, although, as I wrote on Facebook today in a piece that's gone viral, I'm not sure who thinks that would do any good at all. Does Donald Trump think there are no other Ayatollahs ready to take his place? Does Donald Trump know that the Iranians follow Shia Islam, which is a sect literally based on the concept of martyrdom? These are people who weep openly in the street about a martyrdom of Imam Hussein 1,000 years ago, who ritually beat themselves on Ashura to draw blood from their own bodies to remember the martyr Imam Hussein. Does Donald Trump think that an octogenarian Shiite Muslim is afraid of death at the hands of the Americans? Does Donald Trump have any advisors who know anything about Iran, who know anything about Shia Islam? Well, plainly not, if he imagines that decapitating the 80-plus-year-old Grand Ayatollah Khamenei is going to calm things down, going to make the Iranians more reasonable. He plainly does not know that such a decapitation would send a pulse of radicalism all over the world, not to mention millions of refugees headed for Turkey and then for Europe, coming to a street near you. So you can all complain about the refugee crisis, which will suddenly multiply exponentially. Donald Trump doesn't understand it, but the European Union certainly does, and the British Foreign Office certainly does. After all, we were the colonial power in Iran until the end of the Second World War. We were intimately involved with the United States in overthrowing the democratic and socialist government of Dr. Mossadegh and his replacement by the Shah of Shahs. He wasn't really a Shah, far less the Shah of Shahs. His father was a corporal in the army who was helped by the British to overthrow the rightful title of that throne, the Peacock throne, and replace him with the grubby little Pahlavi dynasty. Although it wasn't much of a dynasty, it only lasted 2 generations. And I assure you that whatever happens in Iran, it will not pass to the imposter, the great pretender in Los Angeles or Virginia or wherever he's based, calling himself the Shah today. It's much more likely there'll be a civil war if the United States pulverizes Iran in the way that is being reported it intends to do. But who will win that civil war? This is something that nobody in the West seems properly to have calibrated. So I'll put my tuppence in. It will not be the liberal LGBTQ plus feminist faction in Iran that will win the subsequent civil war. In fact, they will be massacred in their few thousands, because Iran is not the lobby of the Intercontinental Hotel in downtown Tehran. Most Iranians have never been to Tehran. Virtually none of them have ever been inside the Intercontinental Hotel. Almost none of them speak English. But the ones that do speak English and are to be found in the lobby of the Intercontinental Hotel seem to have persuaded the journalists and CIA assets, and sometimes they are the same thing, that the Iranian people are just waiting for the Orange Man to come and liberate them. Well, there are millions, I'll hazard a guess, tens of millions of Iranians in the Islamic depth of the country who will never contemplate the triumph of the American armada which is currently besieging them. They would rather die than do that. In fact, for them, it would be an honor to die opposing that. It's a ticket to paradise, something else Donald Trump seems not to know. And then there are the Iranian nationalists. I've been to Iran 2 or 3 times, and I'm amazed at the size of the opinion of themselves that the Iranian people have. Dignity is something that really matters to them. It's a concept that's largely lost in the West. But when you are the product of a civilization 5,000 years old, the Iranian Persian civilization was ruling the known world when we were painting our faces blue and living in the forest. And by all historical accounts, they ruled it rather well. The Iranian nationalists plus the Iranian Islamists are more than a match for the LGBTQ plus liberal feminist crowd that the West seems to be pinning its hopes on when it deliberately foments a civil war in Iran. So, as usual, just like with Afghanistan, just like with Iraq, nobody has thought any kind of plan for what will happen the morning after the bombing stops. And they definitely haven't properly factored what will happen in the course of the war. Well, I've said it to you many times, there's no need to labour it, but there will be no more glad, confident morning in Dubai. There will be no more oil and gas coming from any of the Arab satrapies that are in the habit of lading Donald Trump's aircraft, which they gave him, with gold and jewels, with diamonds and pearls. For those family dictatorships will all be swept away. There'll be no more Crown Prince this. There'll be no more Emir that. All of these will disappear. And the economic carnage that will visit you this cold winter will be extreme. I'm so old, I remember when oil prices quadrupled from a very low base, something like $25 a barrel, after the 1973 war, when the good king, then good king, Faisal of Saudi Arabia, decided to use oil as a weapon to punish the West for its then unlimited support for Israeli crimes against the Palestinian people. Does any of this sound familiar? Well, you will not be able to get oil at $150 a barrel. It might be $250 a barrel, in which case you won't be getting it at all. But then you won't need it because you won't be going to work, because your work will have closed down, because with petrol at $250 a barrel or $350 a barrel or unavailable at all of our industry and commerce will grind to a halt. And the European economies in particular, already feeling the freeze, already shivering into recession, will simply stop working altogether. they definitely haven't factored what will happen if Iran's ballistic, hypersonic, and drone technology has grown in power and penetration to the extent that the illegitimate child Israel ceases effectively to exist. Because I'm here to tell you that is a guarantee. If there are any guarantees in this war, it's that once Trump starts firing at Iran, Iran, if it's to go down, will go down with all guns blazing. And if you knew anything about Iran, if you knew anything about the Shia branch of Islam, you would already know that. Plainly, Donald Trump and the idiot real estate developers that are running his foreign policy, one of them his own son-in-law, would have told him that. J.D. Vance, as I told you in the last show, is opposed to it. Tulsi Gabbard, his Director of National Intelligence, is against it. But who wants to listen to the Vice President and the Director of National Intelligence when you can listen to little Steve Witkoff? Steve Witkoff pops up all over the place. He's the man that is apparently negotiating meaningfully with Russia. But when you see how he's negotiating with Iran, it makes you wonder if the Russians could trust him, should trust him at all. Because let's just see what he said today. He said, I'm not making this up, I know it sounds familiar, too familiar. He said today, Iran was 1 week away from developing weapons-grade enriched uranium. Just like Saddam was a week away, just like Netanyahu said since 1996, fully 30 years ago, Iran has been 1 week away from weapons-grade enrichment. And Witkoff, the imbecile, actually spoke those words again today. 1 week, not 8 days, not 6 days, 1 week, and Iran will have the means of a nuclear bomb. He earlier said that protesters in Iran, women protesters, were having their wombs torn out to hide evidence of sexual abuse. Now, that's up there with the babies in the incubator. It's up there with Gaddafi giving out Viagra to his troops, the better to rape Libyan women. In fact, it's much worse than them. This Orientalist, racist, Islamophobic statement from Witkoff today is such obscene war propaganda, it properly belongs in the locker of Dr. Joseph Goebbels. Witkoff might or might not be meeting Araghchi, the Iranian foreign minister, shortly, in the next couple of days. But if I were Araghchi, I would not myself be making the travel arrangements yet, because he was on his way to Oman when the United States and Israel launched the 12-day war. But I better get on, because I see it's 17 past and I haven't even mentioned the prince in the tower. Not since the Duke of Monmouth in the 15th century has a duke been in custody behind bars. But the fat white duke, the Andrew formerly known as Prince, was huckled by the Thames Valley Police earlier this week and taken off to the police station. Apparently he was heard to say, "You can't do this to me, I'm the Queen's son." But they clearly have decided, the Queen's son or not, he is now the sacrificial lamb on the menu. Keir Starmer has to be protected. His appointment of Peter Mandelson has to be distracted. So why not pick up the loathsome, obese bore Andrew and charge him with imparting trade secrets to his pal, his best pal, the keeper of his wife. I mean, Starmer's wife was having underwear purchased for her by Lord Ali. The former Duke of York's wife, the Duchess of York, Fergie, the flame-haired temptress, was literally a kept woman of Jeffrey Epstein, receiving millions upon millions of dollars. I don't know what Jeffrey saw in her. Maybe she sucked his toes like she had an earlier Texan billionaire. But whatever the attraction, he was paying for Andrew's wife's expenses for year after year after year. And in return, Andrew was giving him advance copies of his speeches. Now, I don't know about you, but it seems unlikely to me that any British state secrets were involved. After all, I've heard Andrew speak. He's a speak-your-weight machine, an automaton who was giving speeches in public, although nobody much was paying attention. Allegedly, Andrew was giving Jeffrey information about the British economy that would be helpful to Epstein. And if so, of course, he is guilty of misconduct in public office, but he's guilty of far more serious offences than that. He's accused of offences which make your eyes water, offences that make a shiver run down your spine. Are these girls less important than giving Epstein a copy of your speech to the Melbourne Chamber of Commerce as Britain's so-called trade envoy? Apparently so, because the police have already investigated all the sex crimes of which Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is allegedly guilty and dismissed them. These are only poor girls, girls from the global south, girls from Eastern Europe. You can do what you like with them when you're an aristocrat, when you're a British royal, but a speech to the Melbourne Chamber of Commerce is enough to bring the finest of Britain's constabulary down about your head. And if giving secrets to Jeffrey Epstein is a serious crime worthy of arresting and taking into custody for 12 hours the son, the favourite son of the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, why isn't Peter Mandelson under arrest? Peter Mandelson is banged to rights on email, giving market-sensitive state secrets and European Union secrets directly to Epstein within minutes of receiving them from his civil servants. Why has Mandelson not been arrested? I'll tell you why. Because the man at whose door the 5 Ukrainian rent boys wreaked such havoc last year, who still have not been produced. How about habeas corpus for the Ukrainian rent boys? I want proof of life of these Ukrainian rent boys, and even more, I want some idea of just exactly what they had against the hapless, gormless buffoon currently occupying 10 Downing Street, Sir Keir Starmer. Jeffrey Epstein is going to bring the whole house down. And I don't just mean the House of Windsor. We've got the one and only Max Blumenthal next. You'll want to stay tuned, I know.